So in terms of the organizational structure, bottom left, you see the NCS, which consists of the project committee and steering committee. And we have under the steering committee task teams and ad hoc task team. The difference between task teams and ad hoc is ad hoc have very limited scope, whereas task team in general are standing and recurring for each of the revisions. And they can be sunsetted if need be, and new ones added as needed, as needs arise. So the NCS is under the NCS project committee. To the right, you have the National BIM standard, which is another one of the standards that the Institute oversees. Above it, you have the BuildingSMART Alliance Council, which is basically the body that oversees the work of the two standards, the NCS and the National BIM Standard. And the council answers to the Institute board. So as a little background, I don't know how much you know about the Institute, but the Institute is a nonprofit, non-governmental organization, and it brings together representatives to discuss issues regarding the construction industry. And the intent is to bring representatives from the government, profession, industry, consumer, and regulatory sides under one roof to be able to discuss any concerns within the industry. The mission is to serve the public interest by supporting advances in building sciences and technology. And the vision, we were authorized by U.S. Congress to provide us an authorized source of and an opportunity for free and candid discussion among private and public sector within the building environment. So the BuildingSMART Alliance Council mission is to improve all aspects of the facility and infrastructure lifecycle by promoting collaboration, technology, and integrated practice within open standards. Vision, a global environment where all participants can readily and transparently share and apply and maintain information. The NCS mission, which sits, the NCS sitting below the BuildingSMART Alliance Council, is the broad voluntary adoption of the CAD standard by the building design, construction, and operation sector, thereby establishing a common language for the building design and documentation process. So this gives you a little perspective of where the NCS fits within the organization. The NCS, as you know, is a consensus standard. It incorporates industry publication. It is comprised of interrelated standards, guidelines, and tools for uniformly organizing and presenting facility drawings information. So below you see the current contributors, AIA, CSI, and the National Institute of Building Sciences. The industry participation is through the NCS project committee with representation from 12 public and private interest categories. And those interest categories permeate all of the projects and councils of the Institute. That's part of our charter. So that project committee performs a peer review of each edition of the standard. The NCS project committee follows the consensus rules approved by the NIBS Board of Directors. The first version of the NCS was released in 1999, and the last version, which is version 5, was released in May of 2011, May of this year. So in terms of the overall consensus timeline, this process timeline gives you an overall idea of how long the whole process takes. At the top, the first, you have columns. Each column equates to a month, and it is split into two segments. The first being the steering committee and task team appointment, which takes about 6 months, and the second is the development and revision process timeline. To the left, you have swim lines for indicating who's in charge of each segment of the process. So with the project committee at the top, then we've got the steering committee, which is the executive body of the project committee. We have a nominating committee, which only is in place at the beginning of the process to nominate the chair of the project committee, assuming that the chair wants to step down. Then below the steering committee, we would have task teams, as I pointed before. There's staff and the board of direction, as well as the BSA Board of Directors and the Institute Board of Directors. So as indicated here, I hope this is large enough, but essentially the nominating committee will be appointing in normal time, would be appointing a chair. Last year's chair has agreed to stay on for the next revision cycle. So the next process would be for the project committee to nominate a vice chair and a secretary. There will be a call for nominations. Following that call, there will be an election by the whole project committee. So the whole project committee will be asked to approve the nominations. And once the nominations have been approved, the chair of the project committee, who is also the chair of the steering committee, will start appointing members of the steering committee. We will then have a call for volunteers to serve on task teams. That goes out through the full membership, and following receipt of interest from the membership, then the steering committee will be appointing task team chair and members of the task teams. The task teams are between 3 to 9 members. We have found that anything beyond even 10 members becomes totally unruly, and the process does not move. Additionally, we find that even with 10 members, some members eventually drop off. So we usually have about 4 to 8 members within each task team. So following appointment of the task team, then we send out a call indicating that the revision cycle will open on a specific date, and we outline a schedule of the review process. With the the schedule will specifically indicate when each of the steps will take place and the start date as well as the closing date. So here I have this process takes about 7.5 to 8 months. That's provided that we stay within the time frames. Oftentimes, or I shouldn't say oftentimes, but thus far, the project committee has had to provide extension whenever it was clear that the members did not have sufficient time to complete the tasks at hand. So the first step would be the ballot submission, which is about 56 calendar days, followed by the ballot review. The ballot review takes place by the task teams. The task team receive the ballots, and as they receive the ballot, they vet those ballots, and then they make a decision on whether the ballot has merits and should be forwarded to the project committee for commentary. So once we've got the ballot review is completed, which is about 84 calendar days from the day that the opening of the ballot submission through the end of the review, then the approved ballots as well as the ballot items which were rejected are submitted to the full project committee for commentary. That comment period is usually 28 calendar days. It can be increased if need be by the project committee or by the steering committee. Following the comment period, there is a review and summary period. This is a time during which the task team review the comments from the membership, provide a summary of all the pros and cons, and that summary will then be presented during a ballot review and discussion meeting. This is an opportunity for the membership to voice concerns about content or to voice support for the ballot items that they have reviewed. Following the discussion meeting, that discussion meeting is only a couple of days, and usually it is a physical meeting, although nowadays a lot of people prefer to participate remotely, so we've also provided remote access for those who cannot travel. Following the discussion meeting, we prepare the ballot for voting. The preparation means that if for some reason during the meeting the membership expressed some serious concern about one of the ballot items which were approved by the task teams and feel that there should be some additional changes provided in order to improve the ballot item, this is a time during which that will take place. So the revised ballot will then be submitted to a vote of the full membership. So between 6 and 7.5 months, the voting will take place. The voting is 28 calendar days. And following the voting, at the close of the voting period, the steering committee will issue certification that X number of ballots were approved, X number of ballots were rejected, and that's the changes that then will be incorporated in the next version of the standard. We have a similar process for rules of governance changes. In other words, if for some reason as we go through the process, the steering committee feels that there needs to be some changes to the rule of governance, we have a similar revision process, and with specific timelines for each. And the rules usually go directly from the steering committee to a vote of the project committee without going through the task teams. So here I've, in the typical life cycle of a ballot item, the form will be downloaded. Then the changes from the membership will be submitted online. That change will be assigned to a task team. The task team will review and vet the content of the suggested changes, will approve or reject the content of the changes, and eventually the ballot will be open for public comment of the project committee and then submitted to a vote of the project committee.
And Dominique, this is Matt. Just sneaking in here quick. Between this information here, the previous slide, and the two slides prior to that, where it kind of shows a breakup between NCS and the NIBS task teams and that grouping, where, if at all, in any of that falling, does the group here do we fit as the UDS task team within CSI? Do we have any correlation to any of those, or are we our own entity body that just kind of helps in promoting and working on things?
Well, as a contributing organization, the CSI has always supported the efforts of the project committee by appointing some members within its membership to participate in the review of the next edition of the standard. That appointment can come from either one of your committees, or it's simply soliciting your membership to participate by becoming members of the project committee. Membership in the project committee only requires that one has a copy of the NCS. That's the only requirement. So they do not have to belong to the institute, but they do have to have a copy of the latest version of the standard for obvious reasons, because we are moving from the existing version to the next. Therefore, changes to the standard are with the existing content in mind. So therefore, the rules requires that project committee members have a copy of the current version. And membership, we have a form online, and your members can simply fill out the form whenever we indicate that there's going to be the start of a new version, and become members. So that's the relationship between the NCS project committee and the committees that may exist within CSI and the committees that exist within AIA. In in version 4, as well as in version 3.1, Rick Green was one of the members of the steering committee. He was a active member of the steering committee, basically promoting the interest of the CSI, as well as seeing that the coordination between all the modules of the NCS was properly administered. So I believe Frank Heitzman was a member of the steering committee during version 5, but Frank came with not as much background as Rick, so he may have had some difficulties at time knowing exactly how far to push his views or how far to bring in members from CSI within the process. Does that answer your question?
I think a little. So I guess if and when we get to that phase, that area, it'll be kind of up to us again to push forward nominees to be into that position.
That's right.
Or would it? Okay.
Yes. You know, when we call for nomination of chair and vice chair, this is a time during which, assuming that the members are part of the project committee, they can vie for that position. They can also submit their candidacy as chair of a task team. But they need to be members of the project committee. So I would encourage you to send a call for volunteers to participate in the NCS project committee. Because once they're part of the project committee, and we have quite a few CSI members on the project committee already, some of which you may not know, but if they become members of the project committee, then they receive all of the call for nominations. You, as staff support for CSI, will also receive the calls and therefore can advise your membership that the next appointment of committees is starting and encourage your members to participate. So in terms of the process, everything is done online. We access, rather, let me step back. It's done online through a portal, a collaboration portal. And that portal is accessible from the main buildingSMART NCS page, which is the page where we have all of the latest news, information about the NCS, relationship between the contributing organization and the NCS. So here at the top you see Get Involved. This is where one would find a copy of the application to become a member of the project committee, of the NCS project committee. So the access to the portal takes place from this web page. You have a member portal login. On the portal, we've got all of the information surrounding the process. We have the calendar, we have a list of all the project committee members, and this is where you can browse through and see that probably a lot of your members are already on the project committee and have been on the project committee for many, many years. We also have all of the task team information, task team steering committee, as well as project committee information, all of their files, all of their timelines, who's involved, who's the chair, who are the members. Everything is listed here. So, for example, we have the files, and we have the ability to version everything that is on the portal. So we never lose any of our documents and can go back in time whenever needed. We also have the specific charges assigned to each of the task teams. And regarding the balloting module, the consensus module, on the consensus module we have timelines which identify, as I indicated, the opening and closing of each of the periods, from the submission period to the comment period, all the way to the voting and eventually final release. We have ballot instructions on how to submit a ballot. So posting a ballot, some instruction. On the right-hand side, we have a couple of videos that provide the project committee members with an overview of the portal and how to navigate through the portal. And then we also have the ballot forms that they will use should they wish to submit changes to the existing content of the standard. Those forms have been developed based upon the content of the NCS. And we have 3 forms, one which is specifically designed for submitting layer changes, another one specifically for symbols, and the third one is for anything else on the NCS. Once the ballots are submitted, you have a full listing on the portal of what they are. So you've got a ballot number, then you've got the title as submitted by the author. You've got an identifier, which basically indicates who was the person who submitted the ballot and the date they submitted their request for a change. The type of ballot that they submitted, one of those 3 forms, when it was uploaded, and to whom that revision change was assigned, which group. In this particular case, it was the UDS. The first one on the first row is the UDS. And then we have a status, and that status would take place once the task team has made a decision as to whether the ballot should be approved as noted, rejected. We also have some which are simply editorial, so do not need the change or the consensus of the committee via a vote. On the identifier, we also have a section which is called Reply to Comment, which allows the membership to provide feedback regarding the content of the suggested change. So this feedback, once you click on Reply to Comment, there is a new window which opens, and you can start adding your thoughts about the content of the suggested change. And as you can see, it's a back and forth. Everybody can add their own comments, and as they add their comment, it keeps track of who submitted the comment and when. Finally, once the ballots have been approved and commented upon by the membership, and it's ready to be voted upon, then the voting will also take place on the portal. And again, the rules requires that in order to be able to vote, one has to have been a member of the project committee for at least 84 days. So it's important to participate in the process early on in order to be able to have a voice and have that voice count. As a project committee member, one of the requirements is that you vote whenever there is a call for a vote. And to that end, you can either vote yes, no, or abstain, but you have to choose one of those 3 options, as you can see on that table. This is one of the 3 options for each one of the ballots that were previously approved by a task team. And the ballots are approved by 2/3 of the non-abstaining ballot cast. So once they have been approved, then we go to production. We incorporate the change approved by the full project committee. And this led to the release of version 5 in May of 2011. Version 5 is an online document. We've moved from the CD and the PDF to a full online document accessible 24/7. And you have to have, once you've purchased the document, you create an account, and then you can come back in and create a login and password and have access to all of the modules of the NCS.
And Dominique, another question for you with actually on the last slide with the 84 days. How far out are we now, do you think, roughly, for project committee involvement? So like if any of the members of our group want to become project committee members and apply for it, are there 84 days between now and the initial process that they'd be available to work on this one, or did they already kind of miss the boat on that?
No, actually we have not. Right now we have completed the release of version 5, and we will be starting version 6. We have not opened the call for nominations for vice chairs or secretary. So that 6-month period I showed you at the beginning in terms of appointing of the committees, the task team, has not even started. So this is a perfect time to promote membership in the project committee.
Great, thanks.
Sure. So on the horizon right now, we still have, although the standard has been published, we still have some task teams working on some other activities, one of which is civil content. Some of the membership felt that the civil was not adequately incorporated within the standard. So we have a task team right now working on reviewing the content of the existing standard, and they will come back with suggestions on how to add content to adequately respond to civil requirements. We also have had a request from the Adhesive Council to add a new symbol to the NCS, and that's something that will be reviewed again during the next revision cycle. We also have a task team right now looking at the connection between the NCS and BIM, and what needs to be included to make that leap from the 2D CAD to the BIM environment, and whether or not there is a need for a new module within the NCS providing that direction from the NCS to BIM, or whether all it requires is adding content to the existing document throughout the UDS section, the AIA CAD layering section, etc. We also have another group which is doing something really very, very promising. They are developing sample files with the intent of supporting implementation of the NCS. So they're creating a 4-building campus using the NCS version 5 standard. And each of the buildings on that campus will be designed with the use of one of these software package. The intent is to have sample files that will then be made available to project committee members. So I think this will be very, very what I'm losing my the term I'm looking for, but I think that when it comes out, it will be very successful because it will eliminate a lot of steps that people currently have to go through in order to implement the standard. So the next steps, as I said, would be to nominate and appoint officers, and then, of course, the task teams. So that's the close of what I had prepared. In terms of, you had some questions, and so as I indicated, the official timeline, it would be review and approval of version 6 rather than version 5. Version 5 is out the door. It's been out since May of this year. So now we'll be working on version 6, which is essentially submitting changes to existing content. And whether there is actually a need to has to be evaluated by the membership, because as the standard matures, we anticipate that there will be less and less changes, but perhaps new content, such as the civil content or the BIM content or any other content that is deemed necessary in order to and that needs to be incorporated in the current standard. And you asked also, yes, the task teams can submit items for balloting. It is a single person, or it is a full a group of individuals. The ballot form allows one or multiple individuals to submit a change. You also ask, once the ballot is closed, will the task team get a chance to view, read, submitted change? Yes, during the comment period. That's when the membership looks at the content and makes their changes, or rather suggest changes if necessary. And during that two-day meeting, then we review the suggested changes from the membership and then incorporate, if need be, before it goes to a vote of the project committee. And the timeline for version 6 have not been developed yet. The chair of the project committee, who's the chair also of the steering committee, and that's Mark Butler, is heavily involved in the national BIM standard, which we are in the process of balloting right now. So we have a kind of a hiatus until probably until the middle of next month, so as to address the completion of the NBIM, and then we'll probably start looking at sending out call for officers. So it's a little bit more time than you had anticipated, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Great. Well, I think that addresses most of the main ones I had. I don't know if anybody else on the call has any questions, or Nina, if you have anything you want to type in that I can relate for you. I guess just clarifying from our point of view then, Dominique, for our group of people, if we as a task team start reviewing any of the changes or things from that nature, either Frank or anyone else in the group that is become a member of the committee task team would be able to person that would be able to access the login and look at the ballots and actually be able to submit information on behalf of the entire UDS task team from CSI. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Nope.
Nina says she's good. I think I just heard Brian say no. No? Alrighty. Well, then I guess at this point, thank you, Dominique, for going a little over and explaining all that for you. Like I said, I did record today's call. So I'll clean up some of the audio on that and get that ready to go for anybody on the testing that missed it. They can view that and kind of go from there. And then Dominique, at some point, if maybe you'd be able to, if possible, send me a PDF or the PowerPoint of those slides. It'd probably be
Sure.
helpful as well as
Absolutely.
a tool, just as we work with the rest of the group explaining how this all works.
Absolutely. And,
Great.
And all of the steps that I've outlined are within the rules of governance, which are on the public site. So you can download the rules of governance and see that all of the steps I spoke about are within the content of that document.